Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. We are now going to do an analysis video of the game between international master, actually grandmaster, Elisabeth Paehtz from Germany, rated 2458 with the white pieces, and Batkuyag Munguntuul from Mongolia, international master, rated 2344. So Munguntuul rated 100 points less than Elisabeth, but she is a very, very strong international master player from Mongolia. This game is from the Women's Grand Prix. And before we go into the game, just to remind you that on Sunday, 8 o'clock local Spanish time, we are under UTC +2. So it's 8 o'clock Spanish time. I'll be doing a live here on YouTube for about an hour and a half, we'll see. I'll be using Livshitz, and my nickname on Livshitz is Mike Rahal, Mikerahal, just my name. You can find me there, and you can challenge me to a game. I'll try and play some, maybe 3+2, or maybe 5+3, maybe 3+2 is okay. Just some fun games with you guys, and yeah, have a good time, hang out, maybe answer some questions as well to the subscribers of the channel. Make sure you're subscribed, because if you're not subscribed, you won't be able to ask me questions and put your Livshitz nickname so I can challenge you guys. So remember, Sunday, 8 o'clock, and we'll celebrate the 1,000, having hit 1,000 subscribers in that live YouTube scenario. If you're connected, you'll probably get some sort of notification that I'm live, but just if you're from Europe, I think we're more or less on the same time zone. If you're from the States and you want to join, I think that it's New York. It's about 6 hours earlier, so it'll probably be 2 o'clock your side if you're from New York. Maybe if you're from the Pacific coast, it'll be even earlier, maybe about 12 o'clock Sunday. I thought it was a good time because it allows me to do a live in the evening. Okay for Europe, and reasonable also for the States. Not so good for you guys over in India. I think it's 4 hours for Indian and Asian players, so it'll be about 12 o'clock at night. But anyway, I have to try and do something which is reasonable for everyone. See you on Sunday at 8 o'clock local Spanish time. So, why did I choose this game? I think it's a very interesting game because it's a Caro-Kan, which I know is very popular. Elisabeth plays one of the main lines with a small change, not a big one. But she misses a very, very important tactic which any Caro-Kan player needs to know. So pay attention if you play the Caro-Kan with black, because this is a game, very important one for you. So knight to d2, Karpov's moves. This is the line I recommend in my chessable repertoire for white, exactly this line. And I even recommend the maneuver that Elisabeth does in the game. She's a very, very strong player, so I'm sure she didn't see this maneuver in my chessable course. She already reasoned it out by herself. But this is actually what I recommend for white, and I think it's quite good, although it didn't work out for her in this game. Bishop to g6, h4, threatening to win the bishop with h5. This is mainline theory. And here, generally, white plays h5 first, pushes the bishop back, and then goes with knight to f3 and bishop d3 as in the game. So we're going to see the same idea, but without playing h5 and bishop to h7. Now, of course, this has some advantages and some disadvantages. The main advantage to play h5 is that when you get to the ending, the pawn on h5 is very strong against this h6, g7 structure. But this is an ending concept, not so important in the middle game. The advantage of leaving the pawn on h4 and not pushing h5, playing knight f3 instead, is that here we get the same position, but with the difference that if there's a long castle and a short castle, white will be able to play afterwards g4 and g5, using the pawn to push forward with the attack. So good for some endings, we go h5. For a dynamic middle game with opposite side castle kings, probably best to leave the pawn on h4. Now the thing is, I suspect that Paehtz and her trainers had noticed that Munguntuul was going for the short castle, and therefore they decided to leave the pawn on h4. And it could have worked out well, as we shall see. Knight to f6, long castle, bishop to e7, and now a very sensible move, queen to e2, protecting against knight to e5, and more importantly, getting the queen away from moves such as c5 or even knight to c5 in some positions. Queen to e2 is a very, very serious move. Of course, black here doesn't have to castle. Munguntuul could have played b5, a5, queen to c7, queen to b6. She has many reasonable and sensible moves. But she went castle, and now here Paehtz plays the idea that I analyze in my chessable course, albeit with the pawn on h5, but the same position, the same idea. She goes knight to f1, which is a retreat, but it's very logical because sometimes white plays knight to e4 with the same idea, but with this move, black is able to exchange a couple of pieces and liberate squares for the queen. With my knight to f1 idea, I want to get g4 in, the knight can then come out via e3, but black doesn't get to exchange enough pieces. So I think it's quite interesting. She plays it, of course, against an attack on the side. It's very good to counterattack in the center with c5, g4. Now, of course, Munguntuul has the opportunity to capture the pawn. Now, in the line with the pawn on h5, this is directly not good because we go rook to g1 and black can't protect with h5 the knight, which she could do in these positions. She can protect the knight on g4. Even so, this position, I've analyzed it with the computer, and at the end of the line, it's equality, but along the way, black has to find very, very tricky moves to avoid white crushing on the king side. So that's why I think Munguntuul preferred not to capture the pawn, but to play c takes d4. But now after g5, I think white attacks is stronger and faster than black's attack. Knight to d5. Here, the engine gives knight takes d4 as the best move. However, I think most of us would play pawn takes pawn, which is the move that Paehtz did. I mean, why wouldn't you capture the pawn on h6? It actually looks crushing. I mean, the rook is coming to g1, the bishop protects the pawn. This looks very, very strong. The problem is that black plays queen to b6, protecting the pawn on d4, preparing to bring the rook to c8, and if white takes on g7, we will move our rook and use the pawn on g7 as a sort of barrier, a shield against white's incoming attack. And this is a very important idea to remember. We can use one of our opponent's pawns as a shield. Okay, we can't use it forever. At some point, the pawn will run down, but by then, we will have got in our attack on the queen side. With the very devious trick I don't want to show you yet. So what should Paehtz have played here? The engine suggests to play rook to g1. And there is a perpetual check after capturing on g7 with some checks on g7 and h7. I'm not going to show you the perpetual check yet because that would reveal black's devious tactical move. Just trust me that rook to g1 would have ensured a draw, but not more than that. What did Paehtz do? She went all out for the win. She played knight to g5 to bring in the queen and somehow crush on the queen side. And now black has a wonderful move that actually forced Paehtz to resign. So imagine the strength of black's move here that actually forces her opponent to resign. Now take your time, look at the position, pause the video if you want to, and just think. When I sense there's a tactical position on the board, I have to check any checks that I have, any captures that I have, and any moves that threaten something strong. Those are the three things you have to check. Checks, captures, threats. If you sense there's tactics on the board. So do it now. Go over very quickly the checks, see if there's any interesting checks. Go over the captures and go over the moves that threaten something. See if you can find the solution. And if you do, put it down in the commentaries. Tell me the move which Paehtz did here, Munguntuul did here to win the game. You got it? Remember, practice, because on Sunday I'll be facing some of you on lead chess. So be prepared. Yes, I know you saw it. Bishop to a3, threatening checkmate on b2. Now that checkmate is very difficult to prevent. Now the only way to prevent it is capturing the bishop. But then, as most of you have probably calculated, knight to c3 threatens another checkmate on b1. The knight must be eliminated, and now we threaten another checkmate on b2. And there's actually no way to stop this checkmate. The only move is to vacate the d1 square, and that can be done, but we can't vacate the e2 square, and white loses the game. Paehtz actually resigned in this position. It's quite a shock when you receive a move such as bishop to a3 and you lose on move 17. Of course, Elizabeth is a fantastic player, a fierce competitor herself, but sometimes things just don't go your way and you just have to let it go and prepare for the next tournament, which I know she will do. And for those of you who didn't know Munguntuul, be careful if you play against these fierce Mongolian players. They are very strong, very tactical, and no fear at all. Guys, improve, learn, and we'll see each other on Sunday at 8 o'clock Spanish time on YouTube. We'll play a few games, answer a few questions, hang out together.